where were you while we were
Woo! I like to do those. Woos! I like to do those, man.
My name is Bob Eschino. Want me to spell that, or are you okay? Eschino. I'm one of the co-founders of Medically Correct, and we do a brand of infused edibles called Incredibles. Every indication right now puts us at being the #1 edibles company here in the state. We know we're in the top 3. We think we've kind of upgraded to #1, but we'll see. I'm sure that changes on a daily basis. I think us and 1, 2, and 3 are all pretty darn close to each other. So, and all great companies, good competition. We get along very well with pretty much everybody in the industry, and it's funny. This is the one industry at this point I don't necessarily consider people competition, right? We sell everything we make. I think everybody kind of does. We all work hand in hand and really help kind of push the industry forward. We work together on a number of different industry groups to try to get legislation passed and trying to really improve the Colorado landscape for cannabis, which in turn should let us improve the overall national view of cannabis. So I kind of like that about the industry.
Cannabis activists, I stay vocal, legalized.
Struggles. I'll go back 5 years ago. I got into this industry because of my grandmother. My brother was, in essence, her caregiver. He was giving her cannabis for aches and pains and to stimulate her appetite. And for me, that was really the first time I'd ever seen cannabis used as medicine. That really sparked the idea for me to go to Rick, whose expertise was manufacturing of food products, thousands and thousands of them a day. And so finding a recipe, perfecting it, and duplicating it was his specialty. Him and I worked for a couple of months and really kind of looked at, what my brother was doing and, kind of the edibles industry as it was set up 5 years ago. They were very inconsistent. They were not packaged properly. They weren't labeled properly. They weren't even made in proper kitchens. So after running the numbers for a few months, 1284 was coming out, right? So him and I decided to just go ahead and get a license, and there was a 2-year moratorium after that. So we went ahead and got our license, and then went, great, let's go out and get a loan. And we had no idea that a legal business in the state of Colorado, we went to a bank to get a business loan and everybody shut us down. Not only could we not get a loan, we couldn't even get a bank account for our business. Mm-hmm. That was shocking, being businessmen trying to start a business, and the most important tool that a business needs was not at our disposal. And then from there, we went out to try to find a space to rent. Didn't realize nobody would rent us space. Those two things that happened 5 years ago are still things that we deal with today. Finding space where people will lease to us. We can't buy a building because we don't have access to capital. We don't have access to a bank loan. We have finally, we hope, solved the bank problem. I mean, we've got a few entities that are sticking their necks out and are starting to bank the cannabis industry, which, we're 5 years into a multi-million-dollar business. We're getting close to doing $1 billion a year in business in Colorado, and none of us have bank accounts, right? So we all figure it out. We've all gotten very good at working around the system and working with the system as it's laid out, but those are probably some of the biggest struggles that we face right now.
And in the clouds, I strike from the thunder, the distance between up and under.
Good question. Personally, I'm happier in this industry and with this business than I've ever been in my professional life. Personally, and really professionally, I guess, I was really, I saw it work as medicine 5 years ago, which really kind of sparked my interest. At the time, I looked at it as, just the business model. and thought, wow, this could be a profitable little business. And that's all we thought this was going to be, a small little profitable kind of side business. It's blossomed into really this massive undertaking at this point, right? I describe ourselves as a very big little business. We're still small, but we are growing at such a fast rate, and bringing on employee after employee and building after building, and now we're getting ready to expand into all these other states. We are quickly becoming a national brand and a national company, really international. We're talking to people in Jamaica, we're talking to people in Canada, we're talking to people down in Australia. So we're really, it's fun to watch, and it's fun to be a part of. Now, personally, over the last 4 years, 5 years, watching patients and hearing from patients and understanding what our medicine has done for people, that has been, to me, the most rewarding part of all of this. And I guess the part that I was least expecting, right? I saw it work for my grandmother, but hearing story after story after story from people who use our products from everything, from pain to cancer, and to hear the relief that it gives them and provides them, and the consistency and the loyalty we have from people, that's been really cool. It really has been. So I guess from a personal standpoint, that's been the most rewarding thing for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, let us know. Can you remember when?
Brought you in terms of opportunities. I'm guessing you've traveled quite a bit.
It's I've really just started the traveling part. Right, last year we were just our main focus was Colorado. We were growing really the last 2 years. We grew almost 1,000% in 2013. We doubled in size last year. We're on track to probably more than double in size again this year, just here in Colorado. Just managing that type of growth without the proper tools has been our main focus, making sure that this business is taken care of. It's really just now for the last 6 months that we've started looking outside of Colorado and what we can do. We're approached all the time. Last year I was probably 3 or 4 times a week I was having meetings, to the point where we hired someone to A, shoot down half of these meetings, and B, handle most of the other meetings, just to start vetting people and to get them through the process. Because everybody with some money and a great idea thinks they're going to get in the cannabis business, right? And person after person after person after company after hedge fund after all these people were coming through the door at lightning speed. It was flattering, but we still never found any real deals that we were happy with, people that we were comfortable working with, or things that made sense. As far as opportunities, I think this industry has huge potential, not only on the medical side, but on the recreational side. But making that happen is going to be 90% of the battle. Even in states where it is legal, finding the right partners, that's very difficult. And then really navigating the political scene and the political waters right now is, who knows? This whole industry could be gone. If they reclassify cannabis into Schedule II, does that mean only pharmaceutical companies can do it now? We all might be out of business. That is a very strong possibility, and they're talking about that today. Could this all be over in a year from now? Could be. And we'll see what happens, I guess.
Hey, yeah.
Once again, probably a subject I could talk for hours on. I guess the important parts, Colorado has established a framework and a rule system that actually works. We've proven that now. It's not perfect. We're working very hard to change some of the things that don't make a lot of sense, either from a business standpoint, a rulemaking standpoint, or a cannabis standpoint. So those are all things that I'm concentrating on now, and I think the industry as a whole is working on. You know, that being said, this industry, even in Colorado, changes every 3 or 4 months. You know, there's new regulations, new rules, new packaging requirements, new labeling requirements, new production requirements. You know, the federal side doesn't affect us on a daily basis. You know, right now their approach has been, if we follow Colorado rules, they won't come in and really do anything. So as long as we're obeying the rules of the state, we should be kind of insulated from the federal government. That being said, they affect us on taxing and banking. You know, those two things affect us every day. You know, we probably pay double the tax rate that normal businesses in this country pay because of some archaic rule that was put in place 30, 40 years ago. So we struggle with that on the federal level, and hopefully that gets changed at some point. You know, like I said, the Colorado market, it's always changing. It's fluid. It truly is. And you know, we've got bills in the House and the Senate right now that are going to drastically affect this industry again, from top to bottom. So really part of the interesting journey that we've been on is navigating through all of these changes. That's been kind of the fun part, to make sure that we stay compliant, we stay ahead of the rules and the regulations, and now we help form and shape those rules and regulations. You know, we've finally got a voice at the table. They realize now that we are an industry and that we are going to have some power here very soon, and it's nice and it's fun to have politicians who actually want to hear what you have to say and are listening and trying to educate themselves about the industry and understand it and not be afraid of it, and realize, oh wow, you guys are just a production kitchen. You're just like any other food manufacturing. You're just like, you guys are professional business people, and you're, you know, breaking down those perceptions of people has been very rewarding.
That's awesome.
Really, we are continuing to do what we've always done, right? We want to be on the front end of the edibles industry. You know, we started testing when no one tested. You know, back in the day, our first and foremost goal was to have consistent edibles, right? That's what we prided ourselves on. That's what we knew we had to do in order to make medical products. You know, people need to know what they're taking. That still is our focus today. You know, we just came out with the E portion, right? So every one of our bars now is marked with the activated milligrams of THC on each piece, right? So we're always perfecting our dosages. We're perfecting our bars and our products. You know, we're staying compliant with packaging and labeling, and we want to make sure that we're on the front end of all of these rules and regulations so they don't take us by surprise. And I think that's shown. You know, our reputation in the industry reflects what we try to do here every day, which is really put out a quality, consistent product for patients. You know, the recreational side is a direct beneficiary of the fact that we treat this as medicine. You know, so even on the recreational side, they know they're getting good, consistent, quality products, but that all came from medical.
Productive pocket representative, Rolling Stone and proving that it's positive.
Another good question. You know, we are, one of the things that we did last year as an industry, you know, we got together and through the CBA, the Cannabis Business Alliance, we put out edibles education cards. So I don't know if you've seen those at the dispensaries, but you know, there were the incidences back at the beginning of last year that really kind of caught the industry off guard, right? I mean, no one, I think, had ever seen anything like that before, and they tried to pin it on cannabis. So we took that as an opportunity to help with the education process. We weren't going to wait for the state. The state finally came out with an educational campaign, which really isn't much of an educational campaign as far as how to responsibly handle edibles, which we've talked to them about, and hopefully that becomes part of their education campaign. But we realized as an industry that we needed to do something quick. So we all got together, we put together this edibles education card. We paid to have them printed. We distributed them to all of the dispensaries. We talked to the bud tenders. We tried to tell them how important it was that the industry be on the same page as far as first-time users and dosing for edibles. Never go above that 10 milligram recommendation, right? If you've never tried an edible before, we recommend 5 milligrams. You've got to wait 2 hours to make sure you get the full effect. Don't stack your doses. Make sure that it stays in its original child-resistant packaging. Make sure that it stays out of reach of your children. They talked about all the accidental ingestions, which there wasn't that many. And it seems silly that we had to educate people. Look, this is a controlled substance, right? You have to treat it as such. You have to make sure that you keep it out of reach of your children. You have to make sure that you keep it safe and secure in your own house. Things that we felt as an industry that we needed to start getting out there. We couldn't rely on the media, we couldn't rely on the state to make that happen. As far as other things, the industry, we do lots of charitable events. The MS Golf Tournament last year, I think, raised close to $100,000. We sponsor events here in town, charities for the symphony, and fundraising events for the Denver Symphony we've done. We actually provide a lot of products for Grow for Vets, which is basically free medication for vets suffering from PTSD. We feel that's very important to have that as an option for vets who want to try cannabis or use cannabis as medication. We want to make sure that those people have basically free product. To keep them medicated, or at least to try it to see if it will work for them. We're kind of limited as to what we can do. I can't sponsor my kids' hockey team, right? I can't, those types of things. We're still restricted on some of the things we can do, and you'll find a lot of people don't necessarily want to take cannabis money. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of political donations, to try to help, politicians who are behind the industry, where we spend money there to make sure that they're taken care of and they can win, in their races for, the Senate seats and the House seats, and
do a lot.
We try.
Where were you while we were
As far as here in Colorado, our next step, we finally moved into our new kitchen. It's got a couple of small grow rooms. We're expanding. We're looking at 20,000 square feet that we're going to be building a grow into. If we get that done, hopefully that will support 70 to 80% of our use here internally. Eventually, we would like to be vertically integrated, so where all of our plants are going to all of our products. We haven't had that luxury for the last 5 years. So hopefully that's the next step for us. We're coming out with new products, things that are more health-based, pills and tinctures and high CBD syringes. The things really more for the medical side, for the medical market. And we're looking at national expansion. We're trying to opening up some kitchens in other states. We're working on licensing agreements with people and looking into other countries. So, got our fingers crossed. Our ultimate goal is to be #1 here in Colorado, which I think we've accomplished. We're pretty darn close to that. We want to be the #1 edible company in the U.S. So if and when that happens, we want to be the most trusted brand across the country, really across the globe for medicated edibles.
Awesome.
Yes, we have labeling and everything is done for a 500 milligram bar. Obviously that'll only be on the medical side. The issue is our mold maker for chocolates found out we were cannabis and fired us. We run into this constantly in this industry. You find people who we are providing them a fair amount of business, and because of their individual prejudice and bias, once they find out we are a cannabis company, they choose no longer to do business with us. So we are right now scrambling and struggling trying to find a custom chocolate mold maker so we can get some molds made. And then when that happens, we will come out with our new 500 milligram line. And we didn't have a compliant machine back in May, and Colorado rules were changing, so we ended up building our own Colorado compliant machine so we could stay in business, and really since then people have been knocking on the door to buy them, so we've now started a welding shop, and I think we're up to selling 25, 30 machines now in the last couple of months, so we're now pumping out closed loop extraction units well, they're selling faster than we make them. So now that we're here, it took us really 14 months to build this out. Now that we are here and have a functioning lab, that's one of the things we didn't want to do was come out with smokable product and not be able to keep up with demand. So we need to make sure that we had a lab that was going to sustain the demand we were going to have. We've done that now. So we've got an extraction lab that's separate and primarily does food grade oil and shatter for the most part.
Okay, yeah, how time flies when you're swimming in open lines, putting in so many miles, got that hop the border disorder, sorta afford to never live a day sober, getting older but still so much further from last October, scary, very, you better listen if you wanna hear me, you gotta run fast if you're looking to get near me, I'm on my own in the zone like meditate, you need a teammate, I cannot relate, stay active in the city where my parents made me, getting hazy down at AZ, we crazy. Up in the clouds, arrest the crowd pleasing. Show up, do my thing, every evening, then I'm back like last season. The cold left the rest to get lost, but not me. See, I'm good with that defrost. Head blown in the wind as I'm cruising down the highway. So pass it my way. Drinking heavy, getting wasted till we pass out.
I am Bob Eschino from Medically Correct, and this is the Chronically Acclaimed review.